Well, this is pretty gosh darn unfortunate. It seems that in Sonic X Shadow Generations, we seem to have some very strange and very silly censorship going on, where this is the original scene, and this is the updated scene. You totally got me this time. I had no idea. Possibly, maybe that's not the case. I would like someone to prove me wrong just in case, but from my source, this is how it's going. We then have, thanks Gonic, you did a good job there. Hey, did you gain weight? The remaster has, thanks Sonic, now then tell me, where's the rest of my island? And then him patting his stomach. Let's hope that this is not true. And then this really low poly thing that young, cheerful girl hedgehog, Amy can be a bit obsessed about chasing Sonic. She even claims to be his girlfriend, which is part of that. She's an energetic go-getter who lets nothing get in her way. And the and that seems this insistence has with the girlfriend thing. I can get that changing. That was kind of creepy. But I don't think it's good to change the past to fit modern sensibilities because that's what we had with Roald Dahl. And someone somewhere making the call of what is acceptable or not. But this seems to be consistent with this. And Amy having the thing, but yeah. But the idea that this is going to be problematic, it's so weird. Like, I don't think we should give such individuals that kind of power. And I'm not exactly sure that's a wise thing to do, to have something so harmless, especially harmless at the time and harmless now, be taken out. Because why? Like, why would you bother with it? What is the core idea behind censorship other than to control what people see and do the like? I mean, maybe it's a small thing, and you'd be right. But why tolerate a small thing when it comes from dog doo-doo? It's like you don't tolerate a fly in the soup. So why should we tolerate it here? Because we had the same censorship with satanic imagery. We've had the same censorship with calling people, like saying, with LGBT people, and now we have censorship of calling people fat. Who is this for? Who wanted this? I don't know. This is assuming it's true, and let's hope to goodness it's not. But, ew, Like, we had this with the witches, and you can't go around pulling the hair of every lady you meet. Plenty of other winks in, like, the 2022 edition and everything else. We've had a lot of stuff. And, Suzanne Nosal was rightly upset, and The Guardian was rightly upset, of hundreds of changes to venerated works by Roald Dahl in the purported effort to scrub the books of that which might offend somebody. And we're seeing that same here. If they can get upset at books, why can't games be given the same treatment? And why is it when I point this out, there's a bunch of people that are contrarian and just being, oh, you just want this, that, and the other thing. Like, no, I don't think you know what I want. I don't think you do. And just for a single minute here, let's take a look at the fire. Let's see. No, not fraud. Okay. Where is it? Do. All right, we have Godot. Okay. It's bad for free speech, art, and culture, as it's always been. Publishing industries increasing appetite for sensitivity readings is a troubling development for free expression. We can just go right down to this. Inherent subjectivity of sensitivity reading makes it impossible to know when the work is done. Unlike a consultant who studied in 18th century Europe or pre-colonial South America, a sensitivity reader is hired to authenticate X experience. I mean, let's be honest, it's not just the black experience, the LGBT experience, or whatever. I can understand trying to get people of a certain identity to try and weigh in, but what makes their butt so special? What makes my butt so special? If I'm a sensitivity reader, why should I have call on what other people do? They have no obligation to be sensitive to me. And if I wanted to continue my job, I would have to find more and more things to get upset at so my job could continue. And then I could validate my own existence and make a lot of money. I mean, parasitism is a very good thing, and this grift is exactly that. I just bully people into accepting me and say, oh, we'll make your life difficult, we'll call you homophobic if you don't hire me. That's sadly a really good way to make money, and even if they have the best intentions, the stick and carrot is there, even if it isn't a grift, even if they really believe in what they do. The system is set up that it has to be. Otherwise, when the work is done, they're not going to be around no more. You don't know when the work is done. To justify their own jobs, you're incentivized innately to find things to flag. There's no corrective mechanism to ensure things don't get out of hand. The practice of sensitivity reading is tipping over into absurdity. Anthony Horowitz's new book, which features a Native American character, Amerindian, I would think, because Amerindian is possibly the more accurate thing, or Indigenous American. After all, they call themselves Indians, and white people seem to lecture them on that. At least the term Indian is a testament to the ignorance of white explorers. And it's a very strange kind of, oh, look at me, I'm trying to help you. I am trying to atone for the sins. I'm whipping myself on the back. I am nothing. It's like that parable on the Sabbath where the doctor and the rabbi whip themselves, saying, prostrating themselves before God, oh, I am nothing, I am nothing. And then the regular Joe Schmo says, oh, I am nothing, nothing, just like them. It's like, who does this guy think he's saying he's nothing? We're more nothing than he is. It's a kind of masterstroke that really tries to gatekeep something. It's like, oh, we're trying to do this and everything else. It's very implicit. It's implicitly gross. It was dinged for having two instances of the ostensible offense of a man that could have been carved of his face being carved out of wood. The wooden cigar store Indians, oh God, yes, they had tobacco. That's what it was in the 19th century, even 20th century. Somehow that was seen as unkosher? Yeah, representations doesn't seem to make sense there. I mean, it was not meant to be offensive. It's not meant to be a caricature in a way that says, oh, these X people are bad because that thing and the other thing. Maybe inaccurate, but naive. But when has that kind of ignorance been an intentional disrespect? But then you couldn't say scalpel because it reminded people of the word scalp and looks too much. For most people, for just about anybody, this is obviously excessive and dismissive, laughable. In fact, it's so archaic that most Americans haven't even seen it. For those who strongly believe in editing books for sensitivity, this presents a conundrum. To acknowledge the inanity of this particular read would be to open the door to questions about the legitimacy of the whole practice. And then when you do point it out, then you're accused of cherry picking, using outlier examples to slander an otherwise noble and useful profession. That's called a con. That's called trying to protect your con. That's called dismissal and deflection. That's called, oh no, I've been caught, I better cover my own butt. Perhaps more importantly, when the standard for rewriting over revised books for potential outrage, nearly anything remotely interesting or engaging in every story that you know of will meet somebody's expectation. This is good job security. And it's bad news for art, culture, and free expression. Why do they have the golden posterior and the golden horse to decide what the pros and you do? And in video games, why do they come in and create more work for overworked individuals? Oh God, they're overworked. And then get paid 5 figures just for their services on a few hours, or just have a talk about X, Y, and Z about these emotional concepts. That things should be more empathetic or more moral. That's that's a moral judgment. That's didacticism. That's being didactic. That's a that's an opinion, and opinions are just not facts. And you know what? We should absolutely not do that. R.L. Stine even faced editing to his work that he did not consent to for years. 5 years. And the popularity of ebooks also presents consumers because you probably can't even get it. You can just update the content like boom and then without notice or consent. And then people are unaware that what they're reading isn't what the author wrote. That's some control crap. And if that ever falls into the hands of anybody, it's abusive by nature, even if the person is perfect. If that person knows what these things are wrong, then how can they be of such high moral standing to make that call? They're the ones that have to look at this content and say that is so harmful that other people can't look at, but they're looking at it. They're looking under every skirt, trying to make sure that everything is okay, and that's really creepy. It's a desecration of art. It presumes again that sensitivity readers know best, better than you, of what you can and cannot see. And the people who grew up with these books, loving it in their original form, will disagree on that point. And if it's anybody, it's parents who should decide what kids read. And if not parents, then yourself. Why give up your own agency and own responsibility and own freedoms to some stranger that has bad and wrong incentives to continue their job and really do some damage to art? If the conservative Christians had their way, there would be no LGBT themes in books. If there's woke or anti-woke, whatever, they're going to make the call how they see fit. That's imposing your beliefs on somebody else, and that's the essence of censorship itself. You can make the case, maybe you can try and convince, but having that kind of social pressure, calling things problematic, calling things hateful or harmful, when no scientific evidence proves that, is like saying the earth is flat, that the Holocaust didn't exist. You don't do that. You don't lie like that. That's going against the literal evidence. And can we not do that? Can we not have the superstition? All the other past instances of censorship, like the Comics Code Moral Authority, the Hays Code for movies, the panic about violence in video games, all have aged like milk. So why not cut that off at the pass and just not deal with it? Why spend so much money on treatment to get mold in your bread? It's selling people moldy bread and saying it's a cure and saying it's penicillin. It ain't. And they keep us from thinking, learning, and growing. The past is a foreign country, and some things really do age terribly. I understand that. But there is a better way than just sweeping it under the rug or insulting the intelligence of the end user. If we constantly revise and rewrite our histories, we're not going to even know what's up. We won't even get the benefit of learning from the past. When you choose to be offended at something, you deprive yourself of the agency to feel differently about it. Why are we giving up our freedoms and trying to follow some herd off a cliff? Maybe don't jump off the bridge. Maybe, put the brakes on this somewhat. It threatens us, and it assaults our intelligence. We're experiencing a concerning confluence of cynicism on part of the publishers who want to avoid bad press and continue to sell reprints of our rampantly censorial culture, where recreational outrage and perpetual offense pervade. Together with these phenomena to sanitize, flatten, and dull a world meant to be rich with creativity and expression and growth, and that's just being just thrown out. All those good things, that's not good for any human. Attempting to create art that upsets no one will only create art that engages and entertains nobody. Unless you try to sell it as a moral high ground. But even then, it's like you're trying to... It's like an after-school special with levels of vapid. Even worse. At least that after-school special and all those other things are their own separate works. This is somebody going in and saying, I'm going to tell you what you can and cannot like. I'm going to tell you what you can and cannot see. And I'm going to use a bunch of things that many people don't like. And if you don't, you're going to be giving these bullies who that engage in recreational outrage and professional offense more power than they deserve. Bullying sadly works. That's why people do it. That's why this has happened in the first place. But sometimes the strongest thing you can say is no. The best thing you can do is just defy. So, don't deal with it. Don't bother. We should have to turn our current trend towards censorship and just go in the other direction. That would probably, stop the loss of money. With all these consultant companies being having really bad press, and these consultant companies being caught with their pants down doing some really awful behaviors. Holy goodness. Why deal with it? It was wrong then. It's wrong now. It's just under another coat of paint. And that just helps nobody. Because the paint, that saying old song and dance is cutting people's toes off, and that song is just grating on the ears. I don't think that's a good thing. We saw this with the church of the past. We saw this with censors and book burners. It's not entirely an exaggeration to say that it is somewhat a form of book burning. Not entirely. A big one, but not entirely. It's still the same in nature, so why engage with a little bit of murder? It's like, why engage with a little bit of eating children? Just don't. Just say no. And it's clearly a grift. It's clearly a way to get money and be parasitic off an industry that is not doing the best. That's why indies are thriving. So just change course. Sega, Capcom, all the major companies, you just do something different. Go back to 1996 or any other time when games were seen as the crosshairs of the cultural thing, or the PMRC, and how Dee Snider gave an excellent defense of art from Scooter Libby and a bunch of other conservative politicians, or liberal politicians too. Just don't go with censorship. It just don't work. It's self-harm at this point, so don't do it. Respect yourself, respect your audience. It's really that simple. Have a good day.